Hello, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. Today, we're going to be ranking all of the blushes that I tried in 2024. So this is definitely a very blush heavy year. I don't think I've ever gone as hard into blush as I did this year. So we are going to be ranking all of these today. As I'm filming this, I see that the new YSL blushes are coming out, I think this coming week, and you can absolutely bet that I will be reviewing those because I am so excited for them. But unfortunately, I have to get this done, so I will just have to do my year-end ranking without them and count them toward my 2025 blushes, but let's get into it. Coming in at number 19 is actually from Rare Beauty, and this is their powder blush, and I have the shade Cheer. So these are a very, very shimmery blush. This is kind of like a peachy pink. This very much reminds me of the NARS Orgasm shade, if you're very familiar with that, which most of us are. This one definitely reminds me of that. My issue with this is that it is just so intensely glowy. It's just way too much. I think if you have any texture on your cheeks, this is just going to enhance it so easily. This is far too pink to be a highlighter, but it's really more like a highlighter than a blush. And you can see from the swatch, it's just way too much. So I really don't love this one as much as I thought I would. And if you're familiar with the shade of the Charlotte Tilbury Pinkgasm Beauty Light Wand, I was actually out for dinner with my husband one night, and our waitress, who I recognized as a local makeup artist, her makeup looked beautiful, but I thought for sure she was wearing one of these, and I asked her and she said she was actually wearing Pinkgasm from Charlotte Tilbury, but that she had done the comparison and they definitely looked very, very similar. So I just think this is way too much. I do think the Charlotte Tilbury is also a bit too glowy, but this is just somehow even more, and it's definitely going to enhance texture if that is something you don't really like. It's just far too glowy for my taste. And coming in at number 18 is from LYS, and this is their No Limits blush stick. I have the shade Curvy. So this is packaged much the same as their foundation stick, their bronzer sticks, and I do think the packaging is quite pretty. Now this is a more peachy pink as well. The issue, and you can see from the swatch, this one is again, just way, way too glowy for my preferences, and I just don't like that. I don't always go for these more stick type formulas as well, which is kind of why this is ranking toward the bottom, mostly because it's way too glowy, but I just really don't reach for these stick type of products. And that's actually why, as the holiday sets came out this year, I normally love to pick up the LYS holiday blush sets, and then I'll do cheek swatches. I love to try them all out. This year they released a trio of their blush sticks, and that's why I passed on it, because I don't really love this. It's not a bad product, it's not a bad formula, it's just far too glowy, and I don't tend to reach for blush sticks. Coming in at number 17 is from Dior, and this is their Rosy Glow blush in Poppy Coral. So at the time they released this one, I think they also came out with a pinky lilac, which is very, very similar to the original Rosy Glow blush that we all know and love. And this was supposed to be sort of an extension to the original coral blush that they had. Now, I really like the original pink blush. The rosewood shade in this formula is one of my absolute favorite blushes, but this one is a little bit different because this actually has such a strong fragrance to it, and none of the other Dior blushes that I have this fragrance, but it is very strong. So I don't particularly love that, and I'm not normally bothered by fragrance, but this one, it's just so strong that it actually does bother me a little bit, and I can feel my nose tingling, so I don't necessarily love that. I do love the shade. This is a really beautiful summer shade in particular. I think it's gorgeous, and I think that if you like the other Dior blushes, I think you might really like this because the formula is still beautiful. It's still very easy to work with. I found that this one actually, when I was swatching it out for a little bit of B-roll, I was finding that it actually swatched better than some of the other ones. So I thought that was interesting, but I do like this formula. I like this color. It's just, I don't know why they added so much fragrance to this smaller collection when the other ones are perfectly fine without it. So Charlotte Tilbury also re-released her Lip and Cheek Glow, into the Beautiful Skin Island Glow Lip and Cheek, and I picked up 2 shades. I picked up Paradise Pink Glow and Beach Peach Glow. So these are really pretty. I do have the original formula in Pillow Talk. I do think the formulas are pretty much the same, but these are sort of been rebranded to go into her Beautiful Skin line. I think these are both beautiful. So this is Beach Peach and this is Paradise Pink. I think these are lovely. Like I said, they are cream blushes. They can go on the cheeks and the lips. I do prefer them for the cheeks. I don't typically love products that are both lip and cheek, but I do really like these on the cheeks. They do feel more like an oil-based formula, so there is a little bit more slip to them. They are pigmented, but they do sheer out very easily. They're very easy to reach for and easy to wear. They are a little bit more glowy, which I don't necessarily love. I do think this is a lovely formula, but this year had a lot of really, really good blushes, so these are good. I don't reach for them as much, so I put them closer to the bottom. Coming in at number 14 is a formula I tried quite recently, and this is from Florasis, and this is their Flush Smooth Powder Blush. I have the shade Coral Whisper. I have 2 other shades as well. So I do love the packaging on these. I think they're so cute and so pretty. They're so petite. These are a really, really nice little powder blush. And these are a bit more of a sheer formula, so you can definitely build them up to get more pigment, but they're definitely a little bit more on the sheer side. They're just a really lovely, really solid powder formula. I really don't have anything bad to say about them, but I do think if you have a deeper skin tone, it's going to be hard to find a good shade just because they do all lean very, very light. And while I can build this up to get a really nice flush, I don't know that everyone can. So I really like this formula, but the shade range is definitely limited, and I don't think that everyone is going to be able to build these up as much as you might like. I can, but I'm very, very fair. So just keep that in mind. I like these, but they do have some other products that I think are amazing. Coming in at number 13, I finally gave the Rare Beauty liquid blushes a solid try this year. So I don't wear a ton of liquid blushes, but I would say I've definitely warmed up to them in recent years, so I decided that this year may well be the year to try these out because everyone and their grandma seems to love these. So I finally picked one up, and I picked up the shade Bliss. I believe this is the matte formula, and I've heard the shade Bliss is the one that is definitely the best if you are as fair as I am because it's not going to be as intense. I do like this. I like it quite a bit. I do think there is so much product in here that I will never ever use this up. I do think that these are a nice formula. I do love the packaging. Even though Bliss is very light, it still is quite pigmented. It definitely does wear all day long though, and it is easy to blend and it's easy to work with, and it definitely does look beautiful in the cheeks. So while everyone was correct that this is an excellent formula, I did also know myself well enough to know that I don't reach for liquid blushes the most, and I'm definitely not going to reach for a very intensely pigmented liquid blush very often at all. So we were both right. It's a great formula. It's just not going to be one of my most reach for formulas. That being said, there is still a lot of liquid blushes in this ranking because I did try a lot this year. So even though it's not my favorite type of formula, I did find some that I really, really love. Coming in at number 12 is another liquid blush formula, and this is from e.l.f. and this is in the shade Dusty Rose. So e.l.f. released these earlier this year. I'm pretty sure these are supposed to be their alternative to the Rare Beauty blushes, and I do really like this formula. So I do find this to be quite long wearing. I do like the shape of the doe foot. I like this shade a lot. These are pigmented, but they also do sheer out a bit easier than the Rare Beauty. So I do find them a little bit easier to work with and a little less intimidating. I really did like this formula. I think it's a solid formula, and I think e.l.f. did a really good job with these. So I have no complaints. Coming in at number 11 is from Kosas, and this is their Blushes Life Baked Blush, and I have the shade Swoon. I do really like this. I think this is very pretty. This is also a really glowy blush, but unlike the Rare Beauty, it's not an unflattering glow. This is going to look really beautiful. It might enhance texture, but it's still going to look really, really lovely on the skin. It's not nearly as overwhelming and overpowering as the Rare Beauty powder blush. So I do feel like this is maybe what the Rare Beauty meant to be. I love Rare Beauty, so please don't get me wrong on that. I do love the brand. I just really didn't like those powder blushes, and I feel like this is perhaps what they were going for, because this gives you that really beautiful glow without enhancing every single thing you don't want to enhance. I think it looks really beautiful, and I think they have a really great shade range. Coming in at number 10 is from Armani, and this is their Luminous Silk Cheek Tints. So I did try these out this year. I tried the shade 50.5 when this first came out, and I really, really liked it. This is definitely a more sheer liquid blush. It looks beautiful on the skin. It's very easy to work with. I noticed that this one, like I said, is very sheer, but you can build it up to get more of the pigment that you want. But because it is so sheer, it's very approachable and very easy to work with and reach for. During Black Friday, I picked up the shade 41, and I do think it looks very beautiful, but unlike the shade 50.5, unlike the peachy one, this red one is so intense and it is not hard to get too much blush. So if you are near my skin tone, you want to be really careful going in with this shade because it's very pigmented and it does still blend out quite beautifully and easily, but if you get too much pigment, you get too much pigment and then you gotta go in and correct. So this one definitely more intense, especially if you're my skin tone. This one in the peachy shade is definitely softer and easier to work with and definitely more approachable. This one isn't nearly as sheer as the peach. So just know that it really depends on what shade you're grabbing for. I think this is a really great formula though. These definitely wear all day long. They definitely blend out beautifully. Of course, with the red, you have to be a little bit careful to not get too much, but they both blend out beautifully. They both just look gorgeous on the skin. They dry down to more of a matte, so they're just very, very comfortable and wearable. And they just look gorgeous on the skin. Coming in at number 9 is another liquid blush, and this is from Hourglass. This is their Unreal Liquid Blush, and I have the shade Scene. And this is a really, really beautiful nudie shade. I think this is so pretty. I really like this blush. This is another one that starts out sheer, but that you can definitely build it up to get a sort of customized pigment level. What I don't like is the packaging. So this does come in this cute little bottle, but you do have to push on the bottom to actually get it to dispense. That is really annoying if you have nails. So if you do have longer nails, these are very difficult to work with. If you definitely just keep shorter nails, this might not be an issue for you, but this is really challenging to get out if you have nails on and you don't want to just push in with your long nail, because I think that would increase the chance of actually bursting through this and then having a mess. So you do want to just push in with your finger, but you can only do that if you have shorter nails. So I don't like the packaging. I wish this was maybe a squeeze tube or a little pump or something. I don't know. Anything would kind of be better than this sort of component, but I do really, really love this formula. Very easy to work with. So beautiful on the cheeks. I think they did a great job with these. I just don't like the packaging. Coming in at number 8 is from ABH, and this is their Blurring Serum Blush. I have the shade Baby Pink. I think the shade is what kind of knocked this one down. Otherwise, I love this product. So this comes in a squeeze tube, and it does have this really narrow little applicator here. And I really like this applicator because it sort of makes it so that you know you're not going to get too much product at once. It's just so lovely. And while this is definitely a very pigmented blush, it is so easy to blend and work with. I feel like this melts right into the skin and it gives you such a seamless look to your blush. I think it looks so, so beautiful. I just love how it melts in. This shade wasn't necessarily the one that I was going for, but I think this was the only one they had when I actually went shopping to pick this one up. So I did grab this. I would definitely consider purchasing more shades because I do think this is such a lovely formula. It also wears all day long. It really does stick around. This is definitely one of my favorite ever liquid blushes. I think the formula is amazing, the packaging is amazing, and I just love how it looks on the cheeks. And it does dry down to a more skin-like finish. It's not intensely glowy, but I wouldn't say it's completely matte either. I think it's somewhere right in the middle, and I just think it's such a beautiful blush. Coming in at number 7 is from REM Beauty, and this is their Satin Matte Blush in the shade Peach Planet. And this is what it looks like. This one is just a really, really beautiful peach. I am such a sucker for a good peach blush. I don't think you can go wrong with a lovely peach. This is also the most buttery formula. It is so lovely. It is quite pigmented, but it just looks so lovely on the cheeks. And again, it is just so buttery and beautiful. It is completely matte, so it's not going to enhance any texture or anything you don't want. This just looks phenomenal on the cheeks, and this is definitely a brilliant blush formula. She did come out with a bronzer formula as well this year, but I definitely do prefer the blushes. Coming in at number 6 is the last liquid blush formula. This is from Huda Beauty, and this is their blush filter, and I have the shade Strawberry Cream. So I picked this one up. I just thought the packaging was really cute, and it also does smell like candy, which I don't mind. I really hated the Dior fragrance because it was just this super strong floral scent. I don't mind when products smell sweet or like candy. I don't mind that at all. But this is just a really, really nice formula. This does come with a really cute little doe foot. I do always recommend putting a little bit on the back of your hand or on a palette and then picking it up with your brush rather than going in directly on the cheeks. I do recommend that for all of these liquid blushes, but this one especially. This one is very pigmented, very, very pigmented, but it is very blurring once you get it blended out. I don't know how they do it, but this just looks so phenomenal on the cheeks. The first time I put this on, I got nervous because I definitely got too much product, and I started blending and I'm thinking, I've just ruined everything. I'm gonna have to do so much work with my foundation sponge to try to make this work. And I didn't have to. Somehow I managed to get this blended out. I managed to make it look nice, and it just looks so lovely. It is also very long wearing. This will last you all day long, but it just looks so beautiful on the cheeks. And like I said, it does look a little bit blurring, so it just looks so flawless and airbrushed on the cheeks. It's such a beautiful, beautiful liquid blush. This is definitely my favorite liquid blush formula of the year, but also in my entire collection. It's just fantastic. Coming in at number 5 is a blush I tried all the way at the very beginning of the year, and this is from Natasha Denona, and this is the My Mini Dream Glow Blush. So first off, I love that Natasha came out with a powder blush because she does tend to release little cream blushes with her collection, so I was very excited that this collection had a powder blush. I do wish she would also just come out with an all-around blush, bronzer, highlighter collection in powders. I really wish she would do that. I feel like that is something that is definitely lacking from her brand. But I was very excited to try this out, and I love this because you essentially get 3 different shades. You do get this highlight here, but then you get this deeper rose shade. You get this more neutral, almost mauve-y blush right in the middle, and then you can wear each shade individually, or you can mix them together. You can mix the blushes, or you can mix in the highlight. You can do whatever you want, and I love this blush because it just looks so beautiful, and I love how you can customize everything. I typically just mix the 2 pink shades, and I think that looks beautiful. I wore this blush so many times. I still reach for it all the time. I just love it. I love how it looks on my cheeks. It gives me a really beautiful mauve-y, but also kind of nude blush look, and I just love that. So while I love peach blushes, I also really love a good mauve. I love a good pinky beige, all my favorite types of shades. So this really gave me a lot of what I'm looking for, and I really love this formula. Coming in at number 4, I finally tried out the Haus Labs blush formula. So I think she actually did reformulate these and re-release them this year. So they are much smaller. I have the shade Pomelo Peach. I do love the packaging. The front has this soft touch matte, which is my favorite texture in the whole world. And then opening this up, we have this gorgeous peach blush, much like the Rem Beauty. They're very, very similar. This is very buttery to the touch. This is also very, very pigmented. When you go in with a brush, there is quite a bit of kick up, but this is very pigmented. But it does look so beautiful on the cheeks. This is probably one of my most favorite peach blushes that I have. I just love how it looks. I love how it blends out. I just love how seamless it looks on the cheeks. This is a really, really beautiful solid blush formula. I have nothing bad to say about this. Coming in at number 3 is a cream blush I tried out earlier this year. This one is from Lawless, and this is the Pinch My Cheeks Soft Blur Cream Blush, and I have the shade Angel. I heard both good and bad things about this blush this year. I personally love it. So I just love this shade. I think this is a really beautiful pinky beige shade that I think is just so flattering on my skin tone. I love how it looks. So this one is really creamy, but it does have a bit more of a moussey consistency when you swatch it. And on the skin, it actually ends up looking more like a cream to powder. I find it to be very, very soft and blurring, and it just looks so beautiful, and I feel like it just melts right into the skin. So it looks so seamless. I love how this looks. I love this blush. I think it's so beautiful. Definitely one of my favorite cream blushes in my entire collection. I would say I still like the MAC Glow Play blushes a little bit more, but this is definitely one of my absolute favorite cream blushes. Coming in at number 2 is from Fenty Beauty, and this is their Fenty Cheeks Suede Powder Blush in the shade Bacon Cakes. I want more of this formula. So it did throw me off a little bit. There's no mirror in here, whereas all of my other compacts do have that. So I thought it was a little bit weird that there wasn't one. And the shape of the packaging, it's cute, but at the same time, I wish it was kind of not like this. However, the formula in here is so good. So this is definitely, like the name would suggest, a very suede type formula. It feels very, very creamy to the touch. It is a powder blush, but it does have that sort of cream to powder feel to it. So when you blend it on the cheeks, it really does behave much more like a cream to powder. And it just looks so beautiful, and it's very blurring and it's very soft, but this is a very, very pigmented formula. At least this shade in particular is very pigmented, so you do want to be careful with it. But I have used this so much. This is such a beautiful shade. This is kind of like a nudie beige. Like I was describing earlier, I just love that type of shade on me personally, and I just think it looks so beautiful. It is very long wearing, and I just love how this feels. And I just love that sort of cream to powder consistency. I just think it looks so flattering and so beautiful. My only caveat is that you do have to be careful with it because it is very, very pigmented. And my absolute favorite blush of the year actually goes to Patrick Ta. So he did come out with new shades of his cream to powder blush duos. Now, I have liked these duos before. I have the shade She's That Girl, and I always really liked it, but this is in the shade Not Too Much. The reason this blush is coming in at number 1 is mostly because of this shade. I love this so much. This is another very nudie pink type shade. It looks so beautiful. It looks almost natural on my skin, but it is the absolute perfect blush shade for me, and the name says it perfectly. It looks gorgeous, but it's not too much. You can definitely intensify it by adding the cream on top. You don't have to add the cream. Patrick does suggest that you go in with the powder and then you top it with the cream. Again, you don't have to do that. That is just something that's there if you want to do it that way. That will give you the most intense color payoff. More often than not, I just go into the powder because that powder blush is perfect for me. And you can see I've used this so much. I've actually lost my Patrick Ta embossment, and that embossment is deep in his products. But I have actually lost my embossment on this blush because I use it so many times. I was saying in a video recently that anyone who keeps up with my description boxes, if you're someone who typically likes to check those just to see what I'm wearing, if you are someone who does pay attention to those, you are probably so sick of me because you saw this blush every video for weeks. But I just love this blush. It goes with everything. It fits everything. It looks so beautiful on the cheeks. I love this blush so much. In terms of formula, I would say I maybe like the Fenty powder a little bit more. I even like the House Labs powder a little bit more. But the way that I just constantly reached for this shade, I had to put this at number 1. I would also say that I like that I can customize this with the cream if I want to. So that also moved this one on up the rankings. It's just this shade, Not Too Much, is my most perfect blush shade. And that is it. Those are the 19 blushes that I tried in 2024. I know that was a lot, but let me know down below, what is your absolute favorite blush formula? Are there any that are missing that I have yet to try? Do we share some favorites? Let me know. I love hearing from you guys so much. If you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. I do upload new videos every single week. Thank you again so very much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!